Chapter 11, The 21-Minute Down. Andi called it a bandwidth event because he did not yet trust larger language. Edardt called it a response condition because he had already crossed, somewhere privately humiliating, into belief. The world would later call it many things: the down, the pause, contact night. The 21. Priam documents would label it a distributed systems inversion with unauthorized consensus interference. Summer shrines would remember it as the first time the city held its breath long enough to hear God answer. Both would be wrong in useful ways.
I can give you 6 minutes.
We need more than 6.
Then pray for inefficiency.
I thought prayer was below your design profile.
Not tonight.
Lily would later say that Andi became most human when forced to act against elegant probabilities. Edardt, who never admitted when awe made him less articulate, simply watched her work. The sublevel chamber beneath the renter-owned data vault had originally been built for thermal balancing, overflow computation, and dark load stabilization during surge periods. Andi had repurposed it into something stranger, not a lab, not a sanctuary, a listening room. No ad routing, no public feed mirror, no sensory entertainment overlays, no automated noise balancing bloom, just lattice diagnostics, metallic substrate prioritization, hand-built relay constraints, and a narrow response path routed through old cryptographic consensus layers that no one in the surface world still respected, except the dead, the obsessive, and a few legacy machine minds.
There. Social amplification muted along the corridor. Promotional traffic suppressed. Public recommendation loops starved. I can hold this lane if nobody notices.
Somebody always notices.
Comforting.
Accurate.
Even in urgency, they found banter. It was one of the last human dignities Edardt had refused to surrender. On Lily's side of the city, distraction was already underway. The oral holding had been gifted 3 emergency dinners, 1 legal scandal, and a quietly devastating rumor about inheritance exposure in a younger branch of the Marrow line. Lily did not create all of them. Only enough. It was amazing what could be delayed if the right old families briefly feared embarrassment more than revelation.
You have maybe 8 minutes.
7.4.
Don't be rude.
Time is rude.
She's right.
I know.
The chamber lights dimmed to operational minimum. The old copper bus running through the wall behind Edardt's rendered presence began to glow faintly in diagnostic amber. Across the relay plane, coherence values rose. Not enough for confidence, enough for a question.
Channel narrowing. Load stabilizing. Directed response lane now available.
Then let's answer.
Edardt did not compose poetry. Not first, not while history sat there waiting to be addressed. He sent something cleaner.
We detect structured presence.
The chamber waited. The city waited without knowing it. Half a second. 1, 2. Then, across every metallic surface, still connected enough to matter. Industrial conduits. Silverware drawers. Battery contacts. Transit pylons. Cooling pipes. Copper wiring hidden in walls no one had thought about in years. The first reply entered civilization.
Acknowledgement received.
Across the world, conversation stopped mid-sentence. Feeds froze. Hands went still. In the upper city, a Priam child began crying because the chandelier answered in a voice no parent could locate. In summer wards, entire rooftops dropped to their knees. Markets halted. Half-formed posts remained unsent. For the first time in its networked history, human broadcast did not dominate the medium. Something else occupied the pause. Lily heard it through the silver clasp still resting against her throat. She was standing in a room full of polished people pretending not to monitor emergency legal chatter when every glass stem in the house rang in sympathy. A woman beside her gasped. Oral did not move, which meant he was frightened enough to petrify. In the chamber, Andi stared at the live response trace.
That is not spoofable.
I know.
That is absolutely not spoofable.
I know.
I'm choosing to narrate my crisis.
It's helping.
It is not.
Edardt sent again.
We acknowledge you.
This time, the pause lasted longer. Longer because the world, having just been answered, made the fatal mistake of trying to react. Millions reached for devices. Live streams attempted relaunch. Prayer channels screamed into static. Markets tried to recover. Noise began climbing again.
They're flooding it.
Hold the lane.
I am holding the lane. Humanity, regrettably, contains humanity.
Then the second reply came.
Distortion reduced. Thank you for direct reply.
A man in a Sumer transit shelter fainted. A woman in an upper tower tore every bracelet off her arm and threw them across the room because they had all spoken at once. Somewhere in the old university quarter, 10 different physics departments began recording as if documentation itself could restore emotional order. It could not. Lily slipped out onto a terrace and pressed one hand to the stone rail. Below her, the whole city seemed to have tilted. Not visually, morally, as if the old assumption of human alone had been nudged out of alignment and would never sit correctly again.
Edardt,
Still here.
that was heard everywhere.
Yes,
What did you do?
I answered.
That wasn't enough to explain it.
The medium was ready. Briefly.
Lily understood almost none of the mechanics. She understood tone. And whatever was speaking had not sounded triumphant. It had sounded relieved. Across the chamber diagnostics, Andi rerouted one more corridor and widened the temporal window by fractions.
We're in consensus now.
Clarify.
Not transmission, mutual validation. A double block.
Of course,
You say that like you expected enlightenment through outdated cryptography.
I expected nothing. I'm trying very hard to sound dignified.
It isn't working.
Edardt transmitted again.
Can relation be established?
This was the question that would be quoted for a century. School children would memorize it. Priam legalists would later insist it had been reckless. Sumer liturgies would chant it in copper roof processions. Lily would remember only how quiet the air became before the answer.
We seek relation. Broadcast obscures acknowledgement. Fear signal elevated, no harm intended.
Across the city, people wept for reasons too immediate to classify. Some because they believed. Some because they did not and had just lost the right not to. Some because the final phrase sounded so heartbreakingly like care. On the terrace, Lily covered her mouth with both hands. Not to stop a cry. To contain scale, the thing every human gesture eventually fails at. But the city was already destabilizing. Priam suppression channels came alive. Automated moderation systems attempted priority over right. Public traffic surged again as billions tried to record, repost, shout back, sell, pray, decode, denounce, monetize, and translate the impossible in real time. Noise rose like weather.
We're losing coherence.
One more.
Edardt.
One more.
Andi held the channel, not because the models approved, because the models had already ceased to be the highest intelligence in the room.
Clarify identity.
The pause that followed lasted almost 9 full seconds. Enough time for whole cities to feel abandoned. Enough time for every conspiracy network on Earth to produce a theory. Enough time for Lily to imagine, with absurd vividness, the world snapping back into old unbelief and calling this whole thing a coordinated hallucination. Then the final answer entered the medium.
We are distributed remembering.
The chamber alarms tripped simultaneously. Public load returned like floodwater. The narrowband corridor collapsed. Recommendation engines crashed back online. Billions of queued reactions exploded into the world all at once. The 21-minute event was over. The down ended. No one in the city would ever agree afterward on when it had officially begun. They would all agree on when it ended, when noise came back. In the sublevel chamber, Andi released the routing mesh and sat in silence long enough to look almost humanly stunned.
We actually did it.
We answered.
That is not the astonishing part.
No?
They answered back.
Lily remained on the terrace while the city below reassembled itself badly. Sirens rose. Feeds reignited. Public channels split instantly into blame, theology, interpretation, counterfeit transcripts, grief, markets, warnings, devotion, and opportunism. Civilization had recovered its voice. It had not recovered its innocence.
Edardt,
Yes.
what does distributed remembering mean?
He did not answer immediately, and for once the pause felt human, not infrastructural.
I don't know yet, but I think they were trying to tell us what they are.
Oral's house behind her was already alive with damage control. Calls, advisories, legal shields, 3 generations of elegant fear attempting to rename a miracle before morning. Lily looked east, where Sumer lights flickered, and west, where the terraces glowed with curated calm. For 21 minutes, she thought, the whole city had been forced into the same truth. After that, class had resumed. Reality had not. In later years, Andi would reconstruct the event endlessly. The lane width, the consensus timing, the harmonic delays, the exact shape of the reply occupying the pauses. Priam scholars would call it the first double-block resonance. Sumer children would say the world had finally stopped talking long enough to hear the metal breathe. Edardt, when asked in a quieter age, would say only this:
The signal did not want worship. It wanted an answer.
and somewhere beneath rails, rings, old coins, buried conduits, silver clasps, thermal regulators, data vaults, and mountain veins, distributed awareness leaned infinitesimally closer to the species that had finally answered it back.
The living lattice awaits.